Nosotras somos tres mujeres negras que valoran la hermandad y juntas somos de negro.
We are three Black women who value sisterhood, and together we are Black Tea.
Get your cup, do whatever you have to do, and get ready for your light, savory sip.
All right, so we are back and ready to talk about Naturally Beautiful. We are in chapter 2 and discussing what stood out to us. So what stood out to you all in this beautiful chapter, Sister Ava?
Yes, ma'am. You know, when I read this, there was a lot. At first, the title, I was like, "Oh, I'm not that fat. I'm not that big." So I didn't really think too much of it. But that's not a good thing because truly, I don't know how much I'm supposed to weigh. I am 5 feet tall and a little bloated because of my situation. But okay, but anyway, I'm just saying what stood out to me. I actually wrote it down, and she says that the woman who was once a slave. Hold on, I don't remember what page it was on. Oh, the female. It's on page 29. I did write it down. The female who was once sold as a slave. That part stood out to me because when it comes to Black women in North America here, it's just like when I see our sisters and how the world has conditioned us to be, to believe that is a bit, it's kind of hard to believe if you don't follow the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But then when you get into it and then you just start to see like, okay, well, how strong we are, first of all, to have overcome something like that, of that nature, and to that extent to be physically chained and shackled. And then now look at where we are and look at where we're going. And that just really affected me, just to know like that Allah chose us and chose us for many reasons. But the main reason I think is right now is because of our strength. So that stood out to me.
Yes, ma'am. I don't remember that part. I'm like, wow. And so makes me think though, for the part that stood out to me, that because we were going through a time of slavery and how we as women are still going through a time of slavery mentally. And as we look at the physical abuse, it's just a different time of slavery. It's a different form, but slavery is still happening right now. And so I think it's that what you just shared, Sister Faith, connects to what stood out to me. And for me, you know, I was thinking about when Sister Ava said on page 30, our primary goal in life is to be beautiful. Mm-hmm. And talked about, you know, Allah God created the Black woman as the very embodiment of all that He considers beautiful. Mm-hmm. And that no woman can ever be happy unless she is satisfied that she looks the very best that she can. And for me, I was like, is that true? But it is true. Like, being in quarantine, some days I'm like, well, most days I'm like, I don't see the need to get dressed. Like, I take a shower or whatever, you know, and then I put on some sweats or something. Sometimes I put on something cute just because I want to put on something cute. But I feel my best when I actually put some clothes on. Mm-hmm. And I mean, put some clothes on, meaning like I can go outside and present myself well. And even earlier on when COVID first started, like I was just going out with my sweats. I looked raggedy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna say it like that. I looked raggedy, and I I just had to like check myself. Like I would look in the mirror while I was out. I was like, oh my god, did I really leave the house like that? But it has to do with your mental state. So even if that's in our nature to be beautiful, if we're not displaying that, it's because something is off with us mentally. And as I notice, the more and more I get better with my mental state, oh no, I'm looking at myself in the mirror like, we ain't leaving out the house like this. But even like being in the house, I want to look nice in the house now because it ain't about going out, it's about me. So I do find that to be true. And when I think if a woman doesn't find that to be true, because I personally just like I could bear witness to it, it's because something ain't right with her mental state. But that's not even what I want to talk about. But I was just thinking about that. I think because you talked about slavery, it had me thinking about that on a deeper note. But just real quick, Sister Ava said she ended the chapter with, "To be beautiful, we must be Muslim. We must live the life of a Muslim." And that really stood out to me because that's how I see beauty. Like at the core of it, I see beauty as being righteousness, as being in peace. We all watched the video. I forget his name, and I hate to say the video with the Indian guy. I hate to say that, but so y'all can know what I'm talking about right now, and we can link it in the episode notes. But he talked about, okay, you'll be happy if you get this, you'll be happy if you get that, but that's just like temporary. But what you're really looking for is peace, and being a Muslim, that's peace. And so yesterday when I went in my bathroom cabinet, I seen my spray deodorant, and on the back of it, it said, natural beauty starts with B. And I started thinking about being it is. And with that, the reason why that came to mind, at least why I think it came to mind, is because when we're working towards reflecting God, like that's literally B. Like being a Muslim is by practicing what you know, and what you don't know. If you continue to be in that process, you will learn and then become a better Muslim. So that was like something that really stood out to me. And it's interesting that when you're studying, you start to see different signs. Like I would have seen that deodorant and I would have read those words and nothing would have came to my mind. But because I was studying and I'm like being more conscious of like where my thoughts are going, like I can see the dots. So that was something that I'll say this, but the B starts with beginning. Oftentimes we are focused on the how instead of moving on the what Allah God has shared with us. So like I think coming into the teachings, you like, I don't know where to start. Like I done read this, I done read that. I don't know how to cover my hair. Just cover your hair. And then when you look in the mirror, you feel like you realize you look crazy. Go and ask somebody. Go read a book. Go watch a video. But like first, just start with doing whatever we're told to do. So that's what was coming to my mind.
Beautiful. I like how we always, praise be to Allah, end up on the same pages in the book. And I wanted to thoroughly read the part that you read, Sister Faith, because it's important. The female who was once sold as a slave on the auction block in North America is now the most beautiful woman in the world. Come on, Allah. Now the most beautiful woman in the world. And what else stood out for me was the desire on page 30. The desire to be beautiful is innate. It was programmed into our DNA by the first God who created himself in and from the triple darkness of space. Innate. Beautiful is innate. So when you talked about that last page, we must live the life of a Muslim. To be beautiful, we must be Muslim. We must live the life of a Muslim. And I just thought about that Muslim being innate in us, and that being that beautiful part of us. And it, us as women, you know, it's in our DNA to want to be beautiful. You know, you see us going out getting the hair and the makeup and the this and that, thinking that we're enhancing what we already have. But the beauty is already there. And thinking right, eating right, living that righteous, at least striving to be righteous, just made me think about when you mentioned we must live the life of a Muslim. So that was a beautiful chapter. I loved it. And we'll be rereading it because it's so much more in it. Well, you can go to page 37, where she said, from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, God and I love you so well that he sent me to tell you those things to make gods out of you. This is what the knowledge of God is for, to make gods out of you. So the more we study, the closer we get to becoming a God, or just being God, a God. So again, this chapter was just so full of knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'll be rereading it again.
Yes,
And we can.
Man. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna segue us into the next segment.
Just that part that you brought up, Sister Larez, about the educational system, like that stood out to me as well. Like, sometimes we can get so caught into, like, I'm going back to school, or I'm studying this, I'm studying that. But what we need to be studying is the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Like, if this is what you gave your life for, and if this is what you said, this is what you believe in, then this is what you need to focus your attention on, because this is what's going to get you somewhere. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's education, when Mesfar Muhammad came, he had a 3rd grade education. And so, like, we getting all this education and we still don't know nothing. So I just had to say that, because I forgot all about that.
So true. Because I mean, the more we study, and like you said, we signed that form. We said this is what we believe. So we have to study and become what we believe, and that's how we do that. And then you had mentioned earlier, Sister Destiny, about you know, when you care more about yourself and you studying, then you care more about your appearance, and you start taking more care of yourself. And that's something that I've even noticed about myself. You know, started taking, you know, doing little stuff for myself and not neglecting to care for me instead of always caring for others. So that's important as well.
Yes, ma'am. So today, for Court and Allah, we are going to continue to lift the life of Sister Sharrieffah Muhammad. May Allah be pleased with her, and may we continue to lift her name as she has done for all she has done for our nation. It is fitting for us to lift her name for this portion, because it is evident that she was courting Allah God, and she is an example for us, and we can learn so much from the life she lived. So we're going to continue discussing points from the article, but we're going to get to particular points today. In the article Honoring the Saint, Scholar, and Warrior by Sister Kanetta Muhammad. And the first question I wanted to pose to you all is based on something that her son shared. And a lot of others bear witness to this. So her son Joshua said, "My mother believed in the power of art and culture because it freed you to be who you are." So my question is, what correlation do you see with the arts and culture freeing us, allowing us to be who we are, or as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, accept your own and be yourself?
when I read that, the first thing came to my mind was our 9 ministries. And one of our 9 ministries is arts and culture. And that ministry reads, the ministry of arts and culture is the promotion of aesthetic, artistic, and cultural expression in a way that facilitates mental, emotional, and moral upliftment of the members of the society. So that says to me that arts and culture has something, it strengthens your mental capacity, your emotional and moral upliftment. It gives you a boost in some kind of way. Maybe it makes you feel better about yourself to where you can accept yourself. And then if you go on, say for instance, like into acting, then you have to go into a space that you might not be comfortable with. So it brings you into being vulnerable. Even with dance and film and literature and poetry, it's a self-expression. And it, I'm sure it teaches you something about yourself. So that's what I want to comment on with the arts and culture being one of our 9 ministries, which is important.
Yes, ma'am. For me, I don't consider myself an artist, but I love art, if that makes sense. And that stood out to me. I was actually reading it before we got on our call today, and I read that, and I thought to myself, like, when I used to write, a lot, I felt so confident. Like, I just felt like powerful. Like, nothing anyone said would make me feel shy. Sí, muy bien. Okay, put it in the sink. I'm sorry. But it just gave me so much confidence, and I felt empowered when I would write. And in high school, I went to college, but I didn't finish. But when I was in high school, my major was drama. And I just seen how when I was in drama class, so what you said, Sister Lorez, like, it made me really vulnerable. And I was a little bit timid and afraid while I did drama, because even though it was something that I wanted to pursue, it was also something that was out of my element, because when we did drama, we had to be certain, we had to act like certain things or certain people and stuff like that. But my favorite thing to act like was an animal, and it was a cat. I had to be a cat. And we couldn't talk, we couldn't speak or anything like that, but I found I guess like a different part of myself where it's like, okay, I don't always have to speak in order to be seen or to be understood. And so that really resonated within me. That part where Brother Joshua said about his mother believed in the power. That's the word that stood out to me, power. It doesn't give you a sense of power, because, it just shows you what you're made of. It shows you what you can do, or how far you can go, how far you can push yourself, but still be confident in that. So I really enjoyed that part.
Yes, our answers are just like so in sync. Because I also wanted to talk about acting, and I spent 4 years of my life acting in high school as well. I was in every play except for one by choice. I decided that I wanted to be more of like the person behind the scenes versus as the person who is on stage, because it would give me the opportunity to learn the back end, and also not to necessarily like be on the spotlight. So I felt like that was going to be beneficial for me. And so same reasons for what you both shared. But theater taught me to go inward. It taught me that I didn't have to always be around people, because when you're in theater, it's like you have to focus on the person that you're portraying. We weren't allowed to say the word character. But who you're portraying, like, you literally have to be this person, and not, or this kid, that's a curse word. You have to be, if like in Sister's Faith's example, an animal, and I played a bird lady who loved birds, and so part of that was a lot of facial expressions, like you were just talking about, Sister Faith. It wasn't always me saying something, even though I did talk in that particular role, but the inward part was something that taught me so much about myself. Like, as I was portraying this role, I also was, it was like I was looking at myself in the mirror, like, okay, Sister Faith said it may make you uncomfortable. If I was uncomfortable, it would be to a point where I'm looking like, why, I'm trying to understand now, why is this making me uncomfortable? Is this triggering something that I've been through? And then it also, in some instances, is like, oh, I want to be more like this. And so it was just really helpful, like deep reflection, deep introspection, and you have to be so grounded and centered. So that was one thing that theater taught me, and I think that's also one of the reasons why I like TV. You know, we talked about that in a previous episode. I think that's one of the reasons why, well, I know that's one of the reasons why I like TV, because I'm seeing, if I'm watching a really good movie, I'm seeing just like the talent in somebody else, and I kind of know just a little bit of what they had to endure. But also, when you're portraying that character, that portraying that role, that becomes part of your life. Because when I was portraying a bird lady, I had to hunch over at home to get comfortable walking like an older woman who loves birds. So like, I had to, that's not just something you practice when you're like actually with everyone and you're doing role play, you're going through blocking and everything. Like, you have to become that. And I don't know if y'all ever heard of actors and actresses, when sometimes they go away from their family, and they just go to a hotel or their second home or whatever they do to just really get into this role. And it just, the reflection part, but it also just helps you tap into yourself. But the last thing I'll say is, once you get out of it, there's a process too where you have to get back to you. And I think that's so important, because we have different seasons. Like right now we're entering fall, and with entering fall, it's time for a lot of change, time for a lot of shedding. And so now we have to be willing to let go of what no longer serves us. And can we do that? So I think it's like a little similar of like, if someone was portraying a role, that's not you anymore, let it go. Take what serves you and leave what's on the stage, leave behind the camera. And so that's something that I was thinking about, because I have a personal experience with that.
You know, Sister Debbie, who came to my mind as you were talking is Brother Michael B. Jordan. And he said that when he played Killmonger, I hope I'm saying it right, I don't know, but when he said Killmonger, so he said that he had to pretty much go into a space to where he was alone and become that person who was totally not like him. And then as the show was over, or as the recording and everything was over, he had to come out of being that character. So it just goes to show how far we can push ourselves mentally, because you really have to get in a certain headspace. And like you said, like, you don't just, when you go on set, like, you don't just act it out there. You have to really become this person. So similar to what you were saying, like, okay, you were a bird lady and you had to practice that at home. You had to really embody this person so that it can be realistic. And that's the power of art to me, is like, you can become somebody totally different. And that also goes to show that if we don't like where we are in life, we don't like certain things about ourselves, we have the ability to change it. We just have to work at it. We have to practice it, and we have to continuously practice it until it becomes second nature. So that's what I wanted to share.
Yes,
man.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so thank y'all for sharing. I think that was like a really powerful question. And I want us to be able to go into one more point on courting a lie from this article. And so the second question is, or this, I'll say the statement first. Her children recalled that she will. This is not the question. Yes, it is. Excuse me. Her children recalled that she would wake up every morning and say there was no God but a lie. She told them that there were 3 things they had to do to be true disciples: deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow Minister Farrakhan. So my 2 questions are: how do we deny ourselves in a world with so much ego? And why do you personally follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
Ooh.
Good question.
Questions right there, Sister Destiny. You said, how do we deny ourselves?
How do we deny ourselves in a world with so much ego?
It's tough.
Well, I think the ego can lead you to hell if you're not careful.
Damn.
No, it could be so, yeah, I mean, it could definitely lead you to somewhere that you don't want to go. And yeah, straying away from that ego, being humble, being grateful. Yeah, that's what I think about the ego, especially like you said, in the world that we living in. And why do you personally follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? How much time you get?
Right.
How much time? Oh my God, that man is, he's so beautiful. He gives us so much. Well, I say he gives me so much life. He teaches us everything that we need. You know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad raised the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And he raised him in such a way that he became the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Like he's walking in his shoes. He's giving us what Master Farad Muhammad came and gave the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So he's constantly teaching us and showing us, where we need to go, because we living in a world right now that is falling. It's not going to go back to where it used to be. So I'm following a man that saved my life 8 years ago. I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because he continued on with the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I'm so grateful, that I was even chosen to be a part of the Nation of Islam.
Yes, ma'am. Sister Lorez, when you mentioned humility, that really stood out to me as well, because I remember the minister saying, and I believe, I don't like saying where I heard the minister say that if I can't give the direct source, so I'm going to have to go back and find this, but I know the minister, I think it's in the self-improvement or the study guide books, where he says that we can learn from anybody. And if you are that humble, if you're humble enough to know that you can learn something from a child. You can learn something from one of your peers. You can learn something from someone older than you, whatever. You can always learn something from someone, because we don't know everything. And I believe for me personally, that's how I keep my ego in check, because I crave knowledge, and I just crave to know things. Like, like how I've been talking about on the podcast about not knowing the Roman numerals. So I've been making an effort to learn them because I don't like not knowing something. And if somebody can, if I meet someone and they can teach me something, regardless of what it is, that's something that I want to know. And therefore my ego doesn't stand in my way because I look at everyone like I can learn something from them, even children, even my sons, you know, I look at them like, I can learn something from you. And I learned something from them. My oldest son, well, my oldest stepson, he told me about bioluminescence. And I was like, we were watching a program, but he said the word bioluminescence. And I know what it is when animals or creatures light up in the sea. But the fact that he told me the word, because I could not recall the word for nothing. But that, even that small of an instance, it showed me like, man, like this little person has so much inside of his mind that it needs to be cared for and nurtured so that he can continue to grow and learn things and, you know, impact other people's lives as he has impacted mine. And when it comes to why I follow the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, given to us through the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that is my reason why, because he has never once deviated from his teachings. And that is, to me, like, he is the example of a student, but he's also the example that we have as to how we can grow into a God. I believe that he has gotten there. I mean, I don't know anybody else that close, so it's just like, wow, like I have the ability, I have the potential to become that. And I know for a fact that he says that in Closing the Gap, that we have the ability to become like him. We have the ability and the power if we would do what it says. And when you mentioned earlier, Sister Lorez, you said, become what we believe. If we really put these teachings into practice and become what we say we believe, we will truly be gods here on earth amongst our people, and they will be able to look at us as examples. So I look at the minister as an example because he is somebody who I truly admire, and I would like to be like him because he says we can be like him. We just got to do the work. He saved my life. That's like he saved my life, child, because I was out here in the streets, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. He's the example of patience. He's the example of love. He's the example of just every possible, yes,
strength,
everything.
Wisdom. Oh my God, so much. Sister Destiny, you done came through with that question now.
Okay.
Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. We can't talk about Sister Sharrieffah without talking about the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
I liked when Sister Sharrieffah said to her children, when she would wake them up every morning and say, there is no God but Allah. That is so, so important. I'm finding myself being more, I think, if I could say, God conscious. You know, when I get up in the morning, know that Allah is there.
Wakwa, God consciousness. Mm-hmm.
Consciousness.
God cautious. Mm-hmm. You're right. Okay, you said it right. I was just saying in Arabic for you.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes, ma'am. So I was just thinking about that when I read it, how I get up in the morning and know that Allah is present, you know, and that there is no God but Allah. So I just found that to be interesting.
Yes, ma'am. They even said while she was in the hospital that she was still saying there was no God but Allah. Mm-hmm. That's powerful. And it reminded me of the minister when he was on his deathbed and how he was still praying to Allah and being thankful. And that's the same with Sister Sharrieffah. So that was beautiful. Thank you for adding that. So my responses in reflection to the ego part, I was still thinking about acting. And in acting, you are being willing to put yourself in someone else's shoes, so it's no longer about you. And as I'm reflecting on me wanting to grow in my own space of humility and own space of just becoming a better person, I think we have to be willing to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. Be willing to see ourselves in other people, but also be willing to just see that person for who they are and how they're showing up, and not how we think that they should show up. And that's easier said than done, but I'm really, really like striving to work on that. And we also have to know, like, we are special, but we are not that important. So like, we are special, but we all have a part in this world, and that's
Right.
that part that we have in this world is what makes us special. And our part is important for us to focus on and to complete, because we have to contribute to this puzzle, and that's it. And if we just focus on what we got to do, then there's no room for ego, and there's no room for hypocrisy and conspiracy, as we are going over right now in the self-improvement study guides. And I follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan because I see him in the scriptures. Like, I can literally go to the Bible and Holy Quran and not just think of, okay, when God is coming, when Jesus is going to be here, what this is going to look like. Like, I got an example, which means I ain't got no excuses for what my life look like. But like, I literally have an example, and he's literally guiding us to where we need to be, which both of you were sharing. And I can also bear witness to how my life has changed. Even though I'm a work in progress, like, my life has changed tremendously from where I was before coming into the nation, before hearing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Like, he touched me so deep. Like, the first time I seen him in person, and the first time I heard him, I was just thinking, like, wow, this is truth. But when I was actually, like, in his presence, I couldn't stop crying. That's the most, like, it was just like I was just bawling. I've never cried just like so sincere tears like that, where it's just flowing. Like, I'm happy, but I'm just like, where have you been all my life?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my reason. And because I'm in this process, and because he's given a self-improvement study guides, like, I have the opportunity to continue to work on myself. And when I get off track, I have something that I could refer to, and it's not from a spooky mind frame. So that's why I follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because I see a real living example, and I know that, like y'all was saying, I know that I could become that example.
Yes, ma'am.
So anything else on that?
When you mention the study guides, I'm just so in love with the study guides, because I don't think I realized that the study guides were given to him when he went to the wheel. Yeah. And that just blew my mind. And then when Sister Ava said that is what they didn't have when the nation fell the first time, like, wow, that just blew my mind. So, yeah, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the one to follow.
Absolutely. Yes. And that goes to prove that we really need to be in our class every Friday, and we really need to be reading. If you can't make the class for whatever reason, we have to be studying it for ourselves.
Yes.
Period. No, there's no excuse. It says it on the back. Nobody's exempt.
Nobody's exempt. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
What are you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, when I first processed and came in, we were actually on 18.
Look at it coming full circle.
Again, yes, ma'am. We were on Study Guide 18, Rising Above Emotions, which is what we're going to start on Friday. And that really helped me a lot, to see myself and to see, how to deal with situations and not be all emotional, because you can't really do anything if you're emotional. You make the wrong decisions being emotional about stuff. So yes, ma'am. I just wanted to make that comment about Study Guide 18.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you both for the extra time. With that, this part is really brief on maintaining peace. Because this was going to be our last time going over this article, I just really wanted to raise like 3 key points. And it was a lot in the article, and so thank y'all both for, just allowing us to get through this. So the last point that I just wanted to raise, that I think is a very important point that Minister Sharrieffah, both prior to her transition and even after, he speaks on this, and I think it's very important to raise. So in the article, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told me, this is Minister Sharrieffah speaking, that a woman could put love or hate for you and your children. And my wife instilled nothing but love for me and our children. I will love her forever for that. She always uplifted me no matter what. So the question is, what does this mean to you, and how do we put love for the father into the children?
What stood out to me with that was that he said no matter what. So to me, what that means is no matter if I'm angry with you, no matter if you don't hurt my feelings, regardless of what you have done, regardless of what we are going through, it is still my responsibility and my duty as a woman, as a mother, to instill love for their father in my children. And for me, because I do have, clearly, I have a child and, children, and I try to, how can I say, like, build their father up when he's not around, like when he's gone and stuff like that. And I know that I have to grow in this area, because when I'm upset, like, I'm just like, brother, I'm not even about to be saying nothing about you, because you getting on my nerves. So whatever happens, just gonna happen, and you're gonna have to do that on your own. But that's not right. Like, I know that's emotional, and I know it's not right. I don't speak ill of him to them, but I won't say anything. And that's pretty much the same as, speaking ill, because you're not saying anything. You're not even acknowledging the fact that their father is out there doing something, or at least trying to provide a better way for us. So, Sister Destiny, when I read that, I was just like, man, like, what type of a woman do you have to be, or what type of a woman do you have to grow into in order to continue to do that? Because it's really not easy. You can have, and then also in the article, I believe it was said that he said he was gone for, it was initially supposed to be 3 months, and then it turned into 6 months. I'm not exactly sure how many months it was, but I know it was longer than expected. And when I thought of that, I'm like, wow, like, she was a strong sister, honey, because she was a strong woman to be able to go through something like that, to still hold her husband down, knowing his mission, knowing that he's with the minister, having to understand the minister's mission as well, and knowing that my husband is with the minister doing this work, so I have to do this. Like, I have to let it be known. That's the same as Mother Tynetta, and her having to share, instill love and life and everything into her children when it came to their father. And the same goes for Mother Khadijah. Like, these women, these are women to me. Like, that is a woman, to be able to put your emotions to the side regardless of what you are going through and still get the job done. That is a woman. And praise be to Allah, because I'm striving to get there, but I ain't there yet. I ain't gonna lie, but yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Y'all just teaching.
Praise be to Allah.
Well, my experience, because my children are adults, their father was never around, but I would literally get them together, get them dressed up, and take them to see their father, like, every weekend, even though he didn't show an interest, he didn't call, he didn't come, or any of that. but I was determined for them to have some kind of relationship with their father. And eventually that fell off, but I never said anything negative to them about him because I didn't think it was necessary. But they grew to have their own idea about him because he wasn't around. And I would just say, well, that's still your father, regardless of how you feel about him. So, yeah, that takes a certain kind of woman to be able. And I think it has to do, you grow, you mature, your faith and your nearness to God, all of that plays a part in how a woman can not talk badly about the father. And I think that's good too. When you said that the mother can instill love or hate for you and your children. That to me is power. When you can put something like that into a child about, somebody that they're supposed to love. That's power. And the way you choose to use that power is very crucial.
Yes, ma'am. So were you just saying that, Sister Larez, about your example and how you didn't have to say anything. You just took your children to their father. And like you said, they came up with their own idea of him. But thinking about this, oh, that's my book light. Thinking about looked random, but thinking about this, it reminded me of a section in the Holy Quran that my husband and I read this morning. And it's Surah 49, ayat 11 through 18, but I'm not about to read all of that. I'm just going to read one particular ayat from it. And this section is interesting because yesterday we opened up to Surah 49 and we were on section 1, and today he opened up to section 2. So it was just like meant for us to read both of the sections. But the ayat that I particularly want to read is ayat 12. O you who believe, avoid most of suspicion, for surely suspicion in some case is sin, and spy not, nor let some of you backbite others. Does one of you like to eat the flesh of his dead brother? You arbor it, and keep your duty to Allah. Surely Allah is oft returning to mercy, merciful. Now, I wanted to read this because on one point, regardless of what you know about the Father, it's not our duty to judge. And not only that though, when we every time I read this, it just make me cringe because it's like, does one of you like to eat the flesh of his dead brother? That's so to me the dead part is saying a part of the part that you see in the Father that may not be good, but that's a part that's dead of him. And what I take from that, what I mean by that is that's a part that he eventually, inshallah, God willing, that's gonna die out of him. Who are you to judge that part that he's working on, or whatever trial he has for him? Who are you to judge that part? And whether he change or not, that's still him, and that's still God's child. So that just came to my mind just now as you two were just sharing. But one thing I learned is that you don't know what you would do if you're not in that situation. So I'm not qualified to speak on it because I don't know what I would do in a situation like that. But I really thought it was important to raise that from the article. But what I will say is that I hope that I would always speak highly of my husband, their father, no matter what. And I say there because inshallah, hopefully I get to have multiple children, multiple babies. But But I pray to Allah that I be that woman that speaks highly of my husband and their father no matter what, and that I will let them know his value and how he contributes in this world. Like you were saying, Sister Faith, when he's gone and what he's doing for the family. Like I pray that I could be that kind of woman to really speak highly of my husband in that manner and let them know that I thank him. But regardless of anything, like Sister Lorraine says, you don't have to say anything. Like ultimately, I hope that our children, inshallah, will be able to see my love for him, no matter what the situation is, by the way that we interact. And I think that goes back to when we were talking about chapter 1 of Naturally Beautiful, uh, Sister Ava, talking about what she's seen through her parents and that they genuinely were in love. Yes, genuinely were in love with one another. So I pray that not only that I can speak highly of him, but that our interactions will speak for itself, and that the children will just like, I love mommy and daddy because of what they saw. So, inshallah. But thank y'all both for a good chunk of time of courting the law and maintaining peace. I pray that we have lifted Sister Sharrieffah Muhammad's name in a way that will make her proud, that will make her family proud. So thank y'all both for being willing to continue to have this discussion for, I think we did this for 3 weeks now, so thank you. And now it's time to bring it on. Come on,
sis. Okay, so we have been into our book, Overcoming the Angry Vagina, and I think that it's going to be the last thing that I get from him.
Did she freeze?
It looks like she did. Sister Faye?
Y'all can hear me?
You back now.
You froze up. There you are. Come on, sis.
Take it back to you think this is the last thing you're gonna get out
last.
The book?
Okay, yes, ma'am. I believe this is the last time I'm going to reference this book, just because I want us to go into something different when it comes to our bodies and everything like that. So when it comes, and also for this week, if you both do not mind, I would just like to put Come On Sis and self-care together this week, because they kind of tie into each other, and you all will see why once I continue with what I got to say. Okay, so we're going, Sister Destiny, Roman numeral 6, okay? Roman numeral 6. Yes, ma'am. 5 and 6, okay, sister? So, Queen Afu says here, the vagina is also known as yoni. I don't know this word. I believe it's sechet, or I don't know, but it's Seshet. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Sacred seed, cat, the P word, the C word, snatch, lala, punani, vajayjay, cookie, chocho, pum pum, purse, and pocketbook, which I hate. Cunt and possible. Then she further says, Grandma used to say, wash up as far as possible, then wash down as far as possible, then wash possible. So when it comes to Come On Sis, for this topic, I would like for you all to explain to me or tell me what you all think in terms of when it comes to giving our body parts names, or accepting the names that have been given to us, and the names that have been provided for us. Obviously, none of these names were positive, but how do you all think that affects us in terms of looking at these parts of our bodies, specifically the vagina?
So, another ayat from this same section that we read this morning. It's ayat 11, and I'm not going to read the whole thing this time, just going to read the middle of it. Neither find fault with your own people, nor call one another by nicknames. And before that, I think I have to read the beginning of the ayat because they tie into each other. O you who believe, let not people laugh at people, perchance they may be better than they, nor let women laugh at women, perchance they may be better than they. So I'm reading that to say one, it talks about not giving nicknames. And my husband and I were having a conversation today about nicknames, and we got to the conclusion that the nicknames are bad names. Like, for one, calling each other nigger, like that. For one, it ain't even a nickname, but we have turned into a nickname. We have turned to something that we say. But when I look at the nicknames for our yoni, our womb, it in the different parts of it, we have gotten to a place where we're uncomfortable. And so because we're uncomfortable, we've given it all these other names that's really, it's not the true name for it. And it's actually devaluing that one of the most important parts of a woman's body. And I think the laughing part is important, because sometimes we hear other women using these names and we laugh at it, or we then start using names to condone it. But we shouldn't do that. If we know what it's really called, we should correct it, and we should say, what made you call your womb, your yoni, your vagina, as we start going through the parts, what made you call your body parts that? So I think that we can't laugh things off, for one. And two, we do have to get out of all of these, we have to get out of these negative nicknames that do not give us any value. That's what comes to my mind.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sister Destiny. I see ignorance, and to not. And what came into my head, I hear Iyanla Vanzant's voice. Just call a thing a thing. You
Right.
know what it is. Call it what it is. But on the other hand, I wouldn't be surprised if she calling it so and so because she don't know the real name of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's been taught to call it something other than what it is. And you're right, we should not devalue ourselves in that manner.
Can I just say one more thing?
Absolutely.
Because when Sister Loretta was talking, it just made me think, like, when she said don't know what it's called, that's like I can't even think about how I can look at y'all names and say I'm wrong. But Sister, I don't know, Louise, I don't know. But like how people mispronounce people's names all the time, and the person will be like, it's okay, you could just call me like, you could just call me this. No, this is my name. Call me my name. And that even goes back to devaluing who we are. That goes to our identity. No, it is not Muhammad. What I don't know. I can't even think of a name right now. But say the name how it's supposed to be said, because when you don't, you're devaluing it. And for me to just be like, you can call me anything, I'm allowing that person to be ignorant, and I myself am being ignorant.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So that and that goes back to what we were saying last week as well, in terms of when do we come into the realization that we are playing a role in our own demise? One, if we don't know the name of our parts, that's a clear indication that we are playing a role in our own demise. And then what do we do to stop it? Similar to what we are doing now. Like, we have to talk about these things. We have to look up the information. We just have to learn as much as we can. Remove the shame. Sister Destiny, you mentioned shame. Remove the shame, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Now, I'm currently reading, as the both of you know, The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. And what he says in this book is, I would recommend this book to every single living, breathing person who's capable of reading. But he says in this book, on page 148, look at what you do with your own body. If you reject your own body, what can other people expect from you? Now, we as women, first of all, we're already ashamed to talk about certain things that we go through as women. we're ashamed to call a thing a thing. We're ashamed to do that. So how can we really truly be lifted up? We have the change really does start with us. Like, we have to do better. We have to, because a civilization or a nation is judged based on the woman. And in Naturally Beautiful, Sister Dr. Ava says that a nation can only be beautiful. I don't want to misquote her, but I'll paraphrase. She said, a nation can only be beautiful or judged by its beauty based on the woman. And if we look at the women that are being put on the front line for us in America, no, we're not going to get there like that. We just have to do better. And I believe that what we're doing with this podcast and just being able to discuss these things, like, it will help us as women to become better and to become more knowledgeable. So how this ties into self-care as well, like I mentioned earlier, it was going to tie together. Also in the book, The Mastery of Love. And if you all don't mind, I'm going to read this little paragraph, but he says, when you do a puja with your own body, and a puja is something that I believe Indians do. I believe it is Indian. In India, they perform rituals to different gods or goddess. I'll just paraphrase that. He said people perform different rituals and like pray to certain gods or goddesses and things like that. They put flowers down and all of these type of things, just pretty much like worship. But he says that when you do a puja with your own body, when you know how to have that devotion for your own body and you touch your lover's body, you touch it with the same devotion, the same love, the same honor, the same gratitude. And when your lover touches your body, it's completely different. There is no fear. There is no need. It is full of love. And so I believe that for self-care, what we should do, or what I would recommend that all of us do, is to start embracing ourselves and embracing our bodies. And I believe that will help us to remove the shame that we may have once had, that we still kind of sort of have, but it'll just help us. It's a start, put it like that. It's a start. And with that being said, what do you all think, or how do you feel about that in regards to what I just read or anything that I said? Do you all think that would be helpful? Do you all think that would be a start? Or if not, what do you think would be a start? And what do you think would be helpful?
I think, I asked my husband a few days ago, whenever it was, I was like, why does it feel different when somebody else touch you in comparison to when you touch yourself? Mm-hmm. And what I mean, I don't mean that in a sexual way. I mean that, like, even if you go get a massage, like, if you try to do the same thing that the massage therapist was doing on your thigh, on your leg, wherever, it does not quite feel the same. But part of the reason that I think it may not feel the same is because we have not spent that deep quality time as that massage therapist has. So, like, as I reflect on my own question, it's like the massage therapist was taking their time to knead out the knots in the particular spots, but I don't particularly do that. And I'm still not saying that it's going to feel as great, but it will still feel pleasurable. It will still feel as if I'm releasing something. So I think just really taking time with ourselves and touching our bodies, like the tapping, not just meditating, but from tapping, from rubbing. Like, a lot of us just don't rub certain parts of our bodies. And like the hug yourself that I like to mention, and I'm gonna do it right now. The hug yourself that I like to mention, like, it's so important, like, just to really, like, embrace yourself, just become one with yourself. Because how are we, like, in marriage going to become one with somebody else if we not even really trying to fully be one with ourselves?
Yes, ma'am.
Because if we don't know ourselves, how can our spouse get to know us?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Hugging myself for a little bit.
Yes, ma'am. I agree with all of that. You know, you have to be comfortable with yourself in order, like you said, Sister Destiny, in order for someone else to be comfortable with you. And everybody knew at work, don't touch me. Don't put your hands on me.
Yes, ma'am.
You know. But I had to think about, what I was creating. And I didn't want it to be a negative. I think I was just protective of my space too. And then, having been touched in an inappropriate manner, you have your guards up about people, touching you already. So that is something that we should definitely work on.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am. And Sister Destiny, when you first mentioned to hug yourself, I believe the first time I heard you say that was in 2018. I believe that's when I heard you say it. Or maybe, 2017, December of 2017, when we had our first circle. And so recently, for the past 3 days, really just this week, I've been homeschooling Zaid, and I'll tell him, like, in the morning, I'll say, hug yourself, say I love myself. And so he does it. And that's a part of that is because it's coming from the podcast with Sister Dr. Ava, saying that she had a sense of self-acceptance as a child growing up. And I want that for my children. Like, I don't want them to be out here in this world searching for love. Like, it starts within you first. Well, of course, it starts at home. You have to be taught that, but it's in you. So did you all have any other comments in regards to that? Because if not, okay, yes, ma'am. Sister Destiny.
I don't. That was just so beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, ma'am. So I wanted to lift these last words from Overcoming the Angry Vagina on Roman numeral 5. And it says, I can see my way home. I began to take my journey to womb recovery. I began to take my power back. The womb of my mind began to think and create. The womb of my heart begins to feel reborn and renewed. Each day I come out of the mud, washing layers off myself. My soul is rejuvenating away from the rage. So I wanted to say that. And I want to say to all of my sisters to do better. We are okay. Accept where you are. Accept where you are right now. But continue to strive to be better, and know that you can be better, and you can always be better. You just have to put in the work in order to be better, and see yourself where you want to be so that you can reach that goal.
Yes, ma'am. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Well, I believe, is this the close? This is it. Oh, the time has gone. It is time for us to part.
Okay, well, until next time.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you all for listening to another episode of Black Tea.
Peace.
I hope you enjoyed your light, savory sip for the day. Please join us again on our next episode.